All right, Panther fans, how's everybody doing on this cold, gloomy Monday afternoon here in Maryland? It's about 45 degrees on our way to about 24 degrees. And we're not hot here, and neither are the Florida Panthers. I wanted to take some time this afternoon to just go over a few things. I do the recaps, which are these emotional reactions. I do the reviews with Stu. But I kind of wanted to just get one solid stream of consciousness going here. I've got a jumbled mess of ideas and things that are going on in terms of this team. So I just wanted to press record and see what comes out. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to look at the standings and just see exactly where we are in this exact moment. Once I find them, here they go. So, Bruins, 45 points. Maple Leafs, 42 points. Lightning, 35. Red Wings, 32. Panthers, 30. Canadiens, 28. Sabres, 26. Senators, 24. Then over in the Metro, we got the Devils with 43. The Hurricanes with 36. Penguins, 36. Islanders have dropped off a little bit with 34 points. Rangers 33, Capitals 32, Flyers 25, Blue Jackets 22. We currently sit in the 10th seed, but that's a little bit weeble wobbly because the Canadians are 2 points behind us with 2 games in hand. So, one of the things that we've been talking about, amongst other things, is obviously Paul Maurice, the coach. Let's just start here. And a lot of us were really dismayed when he came out a couple days ago when Kobe Guy asked him about the inconsistency, and he said, I don't agree with that. I feel like, this is the grind. We're learning how to grind. And I got to thinking, what is this man talking about? Why is he so sure that his stifling brand of hockey will work? Well, I kind of might have an idea about this. I pulled up his coaching record, and let's get into it a little bit. The first thing I find highly interesting is over here. If you look last year with Winnipeg, he coached for 29 games. They were 13, 11, and 5 for 31 points. So far with Florida, he's coached for 29 games, and they're 13, 12, and 4 for 30 points. Just about as duplicated as you could possibly get. So, when did Maurice have success? Well, overwhelmingly, he's had a lot of not successes. But the one year I want to pay attention to here is the 2001-2002 season, when that's his one claim to fame, where with Carolina, they won the Eastern Conference Championship, went to the Stanley Cup. The record, 35, 26, and 16 ties with 5 overtime losses, 91 points. They won that old Southeast Division with 91 points. Where is it? Is it here? It's here. Let's share this tab instead. Here's the 2001-2002 Southeast Division standings. It's odd. They didn't put the points up here before, but 36, 26, and 5. So basically, 35, 26, and 5. So basically 35 and 31, damn near 500. And wouldn't you look at this? 217 goals for, 217 goals against, a goal differential of 0. Yet, he won the division. Not only won the division, but let's look at the playoffs from that year. This is the conference quarterfinals. They beat the Devils, in 6 games. The scores: Carolina 2, New Jersey 1. Carolina 2, New Jersey 1 in overtime. New Jersey 4, Carolina nothing. New Jersey 3, Carolina 1. Carolina 3, New Jersey 2 in overtime. And then to finish the round off, Carolina 1, New Jersey 0. You're starting to see a trend, all right? Are you starting to see why he believes in playing this style? You get to the conference semis against Montreal. Again, 6 games. This one went a little bit differently. Carolina 2, Montreal nothing. Montreal 4, Carolina 1. Montreal 2, Carolina 1 in overtime. Carolina 4, Montreal 3 in overtime, and then they actually ended up scoring some goals here. Carolina 5, Montreal 1, and Carolina 8, Montreal 2. So they did have a couple of games where they were scoring. But you'll notice this is what? They shut out the Devils, and they shut out Montreal to start off the conference semifinals. Then you get to the conference finals against the Leafs. Toronto won game 1, 2-1. Carolina won game 2, 2-1 in overtime. Carolina won game 3, 2-1 in overtime. Then Carolina shut out the Leafs 3-0. Then Toronto shut out Carolina 1-0. And then Carolina won game 6 again, 2-1 in overtime. Are you starting to see a trend? Couldn't believe this when I saw it. Then in the Stanley Cup Finals, it was over in 5 games. Carolina won game 1, 3-2 in overtime over the Detroit Red Wings. And then Detroit took the rest of them. 3-1, 3-2 in triple overtime, 3-0 and 3-1. And Detroit won the cup. So let's just talk about that just a little bit before we move on to the next thing. It's clear that Paul Maurice is convinced from that one season that you can win a cup winning games 2-1. Now, maybe back then, yes. I mean, the Devils, okay, we're talking, some ridiculously defensive teams back then. And, Carolina's roster, I mean, you can talk about Rod Brind'Amour. Arturs Irbe was the main starting goalie. The goalies that year were 36 and 34 years old. So he's not afraid to play his veteran goalies. Now, again, when you look at his coaching record, let's get back over here. Let's see. Okay. When you get back to Maurice's coaching record, he's had a first place finish in 1998-99 with Carolina, and the first place finish in 2001-2002, the year they went to the Cup Finals. There are no more first place finishes. After that year, where they had the 91 points and went to the finals, believe those are going to be strike shortened years, or how many games here? No, here we go. Okay. You had the one strike shortened year. But the following year, they went from 91 points to 61 points. And then they're all over the place. 91 points, 83 points, 71 points, 80, 91 again. Then he goes over to Winnipeg, and he has a couple of decent seasons there at 99 points and 114 points, but sandwiched in between there are 78 and 87. After the 114-point season, 99, 80, 63, and then, the 63 was the shortened season with COVID. And then, of course, the 31 points last year and the 30 points so far with us. So there's nothing magical that's going to happen. When he says, I don't believe that we've been inconsistent and we're just learning how to grind, he's not kidding. Paul Maurice is fine with how we're playing. And don't let that little rant on the bench last night fool you. He knows he's not that kind of coach, and he admitted that he was just trying to change the energy and it didn't work. It's not going to work. You can't one day say, well, they've been consistent. I mean, we weren't good tonight, but we've been consistent. You can't say that on Saturday and then halfway through Sunday's game expect the guys to listen to a John Tortorella rant. He's all over the place. It's all over the map. I don't know how we fix this situation. We're not going to fire this guy in year one. Okay, when Bill Zito had the press conference, talked about challenges, wanted a veteran coach to help them go through the challenges. Now, I know some people think, well, we shouldn't have fired Andrew Brunette. I'm not pro or against that idea. I absolutely understand that sentiment. But with the roster that we currently have right now, between the trades and the injuries and the changes and the salary cap hell that we're in, are we really sure we'd be a whole hell of a lot better with Brunette? I'm going to go to the roster now. Let's see. Florida Panthers. Let's go to the stats, yeah. All right. Tkachuk is still leading us in scoring with 37 points. Verhaeghe, 24 points. Bennett with 22. Montour with 22. Barkov with 19. Forsling, 18. Reinhart with 16. Luosterainen with 15. Lundell, 13. Colin White, 12. Aaron Ekblad, 12. Nick Cousins with 10. And then the rest of the roster is filled out. I want to show over here now. You can barely see it, but you can see it enough. This is face-off percentage, this last stat over here. Tkachuk, 41. And I'm just going to read them all out. I know most of these, some of these guys aren't supposed to be taking a bunch of face-offs, but I just want you to listen to what we've got here. Tkachuk, 41%. Verhaeghe, 28. Bennett, 45. Barkov, 56. Reinhart, 42. Luosterainen, 33. Lundell, 47. Colin White, 39. Nick Cousins, 42. Lomberg, 55. And Stahl, 46. Dalpe's gotten 47. Tierney, 64. And Hornquist is at 16. So I know Dalpe and Tierney are new, right? Tierney certainly has a better face-off percentage than anybody, but he's probably only had a few face-offs. The only guy taking face-offs on a regular basis that's over 50% is Alexander Barkov. And after that, when you look at the rest of your centers, Sam Bennett's at 45%. Reinhart will take draws. He's at 42. Lundell is at 47, which, considering his age, and that's an improvement over last year, that's not the end of the world. Cousins is at 42, and Eric Stahl is at 46, which is a big part of the reason why he's playing. Okay. Here's the thing. Now, I'm going to take the fact that I predicted we were going to win the cup and all that. I'm going to take all of that and just going to put it over here on the table. All right? I'm talking about what is happening right now. Not what I thought, hoped, all of that. Okay? It's Franken team. I keep saying that, but I think now it's coming into view that it's actually worse than just Franken team. Now, you can have a team that is trying to play a run and gun style where you've got 8 really speedy guys and 4 grinder type of guys. Okay, you can play that kind of style. But that's not what we're doing. We're trying to play a grinding type of style with how many grinders we got on this team? How many hardcore going to go into the corner and win that puck battle guys do we have on this team? We have some guys that are decent at it. Okay? The best guy that we had was Marchment. Gone. Mammon was looking pretty good. Gone. Hornquist. Kaputs. Okay? Meanwhile, we're trying to take players that should be entering the zone with speed, and we should be working on plays and systems to get these guys to be using the offensive talent that they have, and we're dumping and chasing like a team from 2001, 2002. Paul Maurice still thinks that Marty Brodeur is going to be who we're going to be facing in the first round of the playoffs, and we're going to have to win every game 2-1. I don't think he's necessarily that disappointed in our play. Now, I do find it really interesting that we're at the exact same spot that Winnipeg was at last year when he felt he lost the team, and that's why he left. Now, I don't think we're going to get lucky enough for him to realize that he never had this team, let alone lost this team. But I think it's starting to speak to a larger issue here, and that is, to say a guy is old school is one thing, but to look at his history and look at when he had most of his success, and to look at how he's trying to get these guys to play now, there's no other word to say other than old school, but he don't have any old school players. The closest to an old school player we have is Patrick Hornqvist. Now, it's not a coincidence that all of a sudden, since Hornqvist has been out, we lack any kind of fundamental energy. There's no energy. There's no passion. There's zippity-doo-dah. So that's the flip side to why, Stu and I all summer were trying to find some way to fix the cap issues without losing Patrick Hornqvist. Now, on one hand, I can see what Zito is thinking. I don't necessarily say I am agreeing with this, but as I'm thinking about it, I can kind of see where Zito's mind was at, where, okay, we're not going to have the money to really do what we did last year, right? We're going to have these cap issues. We blew the first round picks, so we don't even have draft capital or trade capital to make anything happen. And we don't have any cap space to bring anybody in if we felt like we were 1 and 2 guys away. Okay, so you go out and you get Maurice, and Coach Zito's thinking, hey, look, we're going to have to play a tighter forechecking type of style because we're not going to be scoring as many goals as last year. But I think there was a over adjustment. There was a mistake in thinking that we weren't going to score as many goals as last year. Now, I agree that we weren't going to be anywhere near as prolific as we were, but we have tightened the screws too much. We've stripped the screws, okay? If you're putting together a piece of furniture, you don't strip the screws, all right? You make it nice and tight and snug. And what we've done is we've clamped these guys down too much, far too much. And you can see that it's affecting not just their play, but their attitude. When we're down 2-1, 3-1, last year, what was it, 29 comebacks? Okay? When we were sitting in the chairs and on our couches last year and the Panthers were down 3-1, it wasn't even a minor concern. I was like, all right, turn on the Jets, guys. Turn it on. Oh, there we go. We got 3 goals. We've got a lead, and we're going to run away with this game. And the players played that way. And now we get down 2-1, and maybe there's a little bit of a light bulb that goes off, maybe some nights. But we get down 3-1, the game's over. The game is over. And you can see that not just on the ice, but you can see that on the guys' faces. You can see the body language. You can see how they're looking, just staring off into the nothingness. They know they don't have the tools to make the comebacks. And I don't necessarily think it's all personnel-wise. I understand we've had personnel problems, issues, cap hell, etc. I get that. But there's no way you can convince me or anybody else for that matter. I believe that Paul Maurice is getting the most that he possibly can out of this lineup. We're trying to play a grinding style, but we're not running 4 lines. Let's just start there, okay? If that's the style of play that you want to play, you've got to play your 4th line more minutes, all right? Now, we don't have the same quality of 4th line as we did last year. Remember, last year, Luosterainen was on 4C, okay? Most of the year was Luosterainen with Lomberg and Hornqvist last year. But we still had Lomberg out there. Other than a couple of days, we still had Hornqvist out there. So you're telling me that what? Stahl is the big difference. Just not having Luostarinen at 4C is making it that much worse. Production-wise, you've traded out Huberdeau and Tkachuk. In fact, I think Tkachuk is outpacing Huberdeau for points in terms of where he'll end up at the end of the season. Missing Duclair is a big problem. Losing Marchment was a big problem. But I want to bring up something that struck me today. I think I mentioned this in the article that I write. After every game I write an article for the Patreon and YouTube members after the game. You probably hear Fluffy snoring. He's right here in front of me. He's snoring. I don't think this started with the trade, the firing of Brunette, the hiring of Maurice. I don't think that's when this started. I think, and this is just, you can call this a Jaws theory, okay? I think we started the season last year out of our minds, full of energy, because we all felt like, man, we could have, should have beat Tampa in that series. It should have been 7 games. We felt like we left it out there on the ice. There was more meat on that bone. The team took that attitude into the season. You saw Bobrovsky. He realized that he had been a major part of why we did not beat Tampa. Okay? And they started out like a bat out of hell. Then the Q things happen. Okay? They get together and say, okay, you know what? We know we lost Q, but we've still got the whole band here together, okay? We're not going to change anything. We are just going to continue on, and we're going to double down on that energy and that attitude of we could have done it last year. We've got something special here. And then they played out of their minds. And then we had that big winning streak at the end of the season. And then, and this is something that I know Stu is going to agree upon, then we took, that night, was it 2 nights off? We started resting people. And then, of course, we finished the season with the 10 goals, allowing Montreal to get those 10 goals against us. After all year, the fans are screaming, we want 10. That's what we did. And we never came back. We never picked that energy back up. Okay, whatever energy that was that we took from losing to Tampa in the 6 games in the manner that we did, and not even figuring out who the goaltender was, and that feeling of that energy of, man, we could have done it, and then the losing Q. Okay, we took all that energy and we went all the way through until the last game of the year, the last 2 games of the year. And it wasn't simply that we started resting guys. We completely just stopped the car, got out of the car, and went for a stroll. Okay? We never really started the car back up again. We barely squeaked by Washington because Carter Verhaeghe was a madman and Bob was apoplectic. But in terms of looking anything like we had looked the rest of the season, no. And then we all saw what happened against Tampa. 3 goals in 4 games. So as much as I want to sit here and say it's all Maurice or it was the trade, this started before any of that happened. This started before any of that happened. That team, that President's Trophy team, ceased to exist when Montreal got 10 goals on us, because that they weren't out there against Washington, not the way we'd been playing. Carter Verhaeghe carried us, and Bob said there ain't no way in hell I'm gonna be the reason again that we don't win a round, and we won that round, and we never won again. And I'm not saying Maurice isn't a problem. And I'm not saying that the trade didn't foobar up a little bit of chemistry and losing Marchment and Mammon and all of that. But what we all miss as fans, the energy of that team, just knowing that it was going to go well for us, that ended when we rested the players and took our foot off the gas at the end of last season. Whatever that energy was, we said, okay, we did that. We tried to turn it into 2 books or a second chapter. We said, all right, we've done that. We'll take a couple of days off, and then we'll pick it back up. Only we never picked it back up. We never picked it back up. And so now here we are. And cap-wise, we know the situation we're in. Will this team make the playoffs this year? I don't want to overreact to the last 2 games. The inconsistency is insanity. That's the one thing. If Maurice doesn't think they've been inconsistent, that by itself, to me, is a fireable offense, to be that devoid of acknowledgement as to what's going on. But we know Zito's not going to do that. We were winning games 5-1, 5-1. Then we're getting blown out. And then now this weekend was just an absolute disaster. No fire, no passion, no leadership, nothing. Just flat out nothing. Bob played, considering the circumstances, especially against Seattle, he played about as well as you could expect him to play. Anybody blaming Bob for yesterday needs to get their oil checked, okay? He made 2 saves in the first period that it should, or whatever it was, first or second period. He made a couple of saves that it should have rightfully been 4-1 after those 2 pucks were shot. So there's no blaming Bubba, okay? That not now. Now, he has been inconsistent. He had some struggles earlier on in the season. We know that. Spencer's had a lot of good games and a couple of games were oopsies. Okay, where we're leaving points on the table. But it's been a collective team effort. Now, I've said this a couple times, and it just is what it is. The first couple of games of the year, I want you guys to remember how it was those first 2, maybe 3 games of the year, and your reaction to Matthew Tkachuk. And we were all sitting there going, holy hell, I had never seen a Florida Panthers guy play like this. He's out there like a freaking caged animal that finally got let loose. He's running all over the place, and he's banging into people, and he's winning puck battles, and the team was following that lead. That energy that he had was infectious. But it didn't last. Now, he's still out there producing. Okay? He's still out there producing. But energy-wise, leadership-wise, and we had some people, we cannot ignore this, multiple people. When he came here and Huberdeau went the other way, and our criticism was, yeah, well, Huberdeau in the playoffs, we had more than a few people say, hey, look, it ain't like Tkachuk's lighting it up in the playoffs either. Now, I'm not getting ready to throw him completely under the bus, but this team is devoid of leadership. And you can say Barkov's a great 2-way player and an example, a role model off the ice for showing guys, how to practice harder and everything. That's all fine, well, and good, but they ain't translating to anything on the ice during the games. And now we're seeing why Stu was saying Patrick Hornquist is the de facto captain of this team, because these last 2 games without him, there's no emotion, there's no energy, there's no leadership, nothing. To the point where Maurice had to do something yesterday that he's probably not comfortable doing, and it was a giant gamble for him, and it didn't work. And this is the exact same spot that he ended up quitting last year because he felt like the team needed another voice. Boy, Fluffy's making some interesting noises over there. Now, I don't think Maurice is going to quit his job. And I don't really know where we'd be if he did anyway. We don't know the backstory. We don't know if Zito went after Trotz and said, now, pass. Okay? We don't know if that happened. And there are a few other guys. I've seen some comments people making, for guys that may be available now. But to be honest with you, with the roster that we have and the situation that we have, I'm not necessarily sold that I want to fire Maurice right now and bring in somebody new right now. And what I mean by that is this ownership, as fantastic as the ownership is to spend money and wanting to win, they got a little bit of a itchy trigger finger. There's no way around that. They've got a little bit of an itchy trigger finger, okay? If they don't like how you fold your suit like Gallant, they're gonna fire you, even though you just made the playoffs and you're treading water without Huberdeau. Okay, we've seen that. I'm not defending Bob Bugner, but it ain't like he got a lot of he got a couple of years. Okay, right? And then we saw what happened with Bruno last year. I mean, dude's got a trigger finger, okay? So my point is I don't really know that I want Maurice getting fired. We hire somebody now. They can't really make, chicken salad out of what this roster is. Maybe we make the playoffs, lose in the first round. Maybe we miss the playoffs by a point. I don't want to get the replacement now and then in the offseason, Viola get together with Sifu again and be like, no, why don't we get coach number what? 7, 8, not how many? Right? This is my 7th season of doing these videos, or 6th coach. Let's make sure that's correct. Started off Gallant, Rowe, Bugner, Q, Brunette, Maurice. 7th season of making the videos, 6 coaches. The owners got happy trigger fingers. So I don't know necessarily that even if we were going to be graced with Maurice resigning or him being fired right now, I don't trust the owners to keep the new guy that we would get in his replacement. We'd be looking at the scrap heap again next year if things didn't go perfectly the way that they wanted to. So I'm not a big fan of that. Now we get to Aaron Ekblad. Now, I see all of the comments on Twitter. And I've been right there leading there's something wrong. He's not playing well. He's slow. He's not turning. He's not maneuvering. It looks like Yandel out there is a massive liability. Agreed. I don't know. There's just this little teeny tiny pit in my stomach saying I don't want to give up on him just yet. I'm not convinced that he's not hurt. I think we could be dealing with Maurice thinks he's hurt, but in reality, Ekblad's like really hurt, and he thinks he's out there being Superman like he was when he came back from one of his concussions too soon and then had to sit again because he got rocked again. I think Ekblad, I hate to put it this way, he might overvalue his value to the team in his current condition. Because I just cannot for the life of me accept that his play has degraded to that point. Now, somebody said in one of the comments that it's because he's missing Uyghur. Ekblad and Forsling looked really, really good to start the season. So that X's out the missing Uyghur thing. They looked really good. They were solid. And then then Ekblad hurt the groin. But to start the season, go back and watch the videos multiple times. You're like, we don't miss Uyghur. Forsling's taking his spot. Ekblad looked really good. That was a solid pair. They looked just fine. So no, I don't think this has anything to do with him missing Uyghur. I think he can't skate. He can't turn. He was already slow, but now he can't. I mean, how many times do we see him, rush into the zone and stop on a dime and either shoot or distribute the puck? There's none of that now. Watch him when he's trying to take off from a standing position, or when he's still, and then watch him try to take off. It's like trying to watch a 15-year-old dog climb up the stairs, man. I mean, he ain't moving. So I have to still believe, because I know, Stu's talking about trading Ekblad, and I kind of talk along with him, but not yet. I'm not ready to bury him yet to the point to say he's not. I just got this really odd Panther-esque feeling that if we were to trade Ekblad now, next year we'd be going, well, shit, I guess he was hurt. Because look, he's just fine now. I just don't see how his play could have degraded this badly, this fast. Now, that said, what the hell are we doing? Why is he out there on the ice? He came back too soon. He's clearly not himself. If any of his play right now is related to an injury, he should be on LTIR with Hornquist. Plain and simple. But then you get into what Maurice is saying, and it makes you just wonder, what are they watching? Because in part of his Cocoa Puffs answer to Colby Guy about the team being consistent, he brought up that we've played all these playoff teams and we've done them without Ekblad, Barkov, and Tkachuk. Tkachuk's missed a couple of games. He missed the suspension. Was he out another game or two with injury that I forgot about? Barkov, okay, I'll grant you that. But I already had placed the stats bear out that goals against, we were far better when Ekblad was out than when he was on the ice. And it's only gotten worse. Am I saying that's all Ekblad? No, but it's because the point is Maurice is still treating him like a number one defenseman, and he's not. So he's out there, instead of forcing him on towards Ekblad, forcing, which did look good to start the season, but it ain't working now because Ekblad can't skate. But I don't think Maurice is getting it, because he's blaming some of the unsuccessful lost points on not having Ekblad around. But defensively, by the goals, by the stats, we've been better when Ekblad was out. So, but he doesn't have a clue. He's not connecting the dots. Now, I think I'm getting ready to be interrupted. I think I hear a car coming home here. I'm going to close this door real quick. All right. So you got Maurice. You got Ekblad. We know Barkov was sick. He definitely looks like he lost a little bit of weight. He's winning face-offs. We're not losing because of Barkov, but he ain't picking this team up, and we're not winning anything because of Barkov either. Tkachuk is supposed to be the guy. He is the guy that we traded Huberdeau and Weegar for. Okay? Tkachuk is the one that needs to be out there, balls to the wall, like a Tasmanian devil, like he was those first 2 or 3 games. And I get that you can't play all 82 like that, but you should be playing 7 out of 10 with that level of energy. We need that level of energy. This is what you're going to see, what happened this weekend. Now, I suspect we're going to see a wild and crazy Tuesday because, oh my God, we lost the 2 games and now we have to pick things up. I don't care about Tuesday. I want Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday. I want 4 or 5 games in a row where everybody's just like kind of playing the way they should. Because if you can't get that together, if this team can't put together 5 games in a row of playing the way that they need to, and I'm not even saying they have to win every game. Go out there and play balls to the wall for 60 minutes, full of energy, and if you lose 4-3, we can stomach that. But this garbage that happened this weekend is completely fireable, tradable. It starts to put you in that, you start to wonder, am I on the Titanic? How big was that iceberg? Why, you start to thinking, because, that's the point I was trying to make with Stu this morning. You start talking about trading Ekblad. you're starting to talk about just dismantling and a complete rebuild. I'm not ready to throw. Look, Ekblad looks like ass. He's got to be hurt, but I'm not ready to sit here and say he's done. I can't. He looked good to start the season. He's got to still be hurt. Now, next year, we're going to have a little bit of cap space. Now, this is the first year, though, that, and I get it, Zito was bargain hunting. Home run with Mahura. Home run with Mahura. Okay, you got Forsling and Mahura, 2 home runs. Or like Stu said, Forsling is a grand slam. Mahura, love it. Get the kid signed. Colin White, Balsers is already gone. I mean, Cousins has been okay. I think Cousins has been thrust into, if Cousins was just like, there, you're on the 4th line and play, all right. But he's been all over the place because of the injuries and guys missing time. We're asking him to do things that's not really in his wheelhouse. And Colin White, same thing. All right, we're playing dump and chase and asking Colin White to go behind the net and win board battles. What? What idiot is thinking of that? The same thing with Reinhardt. I'm watching guys go try to win board battles that have no business doing that. We don't have the personnel to play that style. But Maurice ain't going to fix it. He ain't going to change it because looking at his past record and how he's had whatever success he has had in the playoffs, he don't think there's really anything wrong. He's like, well, we're learning to grind. No, we're learning to suck. Okay? We ain't learning to grind. You can't teach players how to be Mason Marchment. That's not a teachable quality. You either are a big, strong, heavy dude that can go fight for the puck, or you're the dude that stands off to the side and puts yourself into position so that when the big dude goes and gets the puck, you're there to take a shot. Well, that's mostly what we got. It's mostly what we got is guys that are going to, waiting for somebody like Marchment to go get the puck. Franken team, ass backwards. It's just all sorts of screwy. So what do we do? What do we do? How do we fix this? Because, I mean, if you want to call it a self-inflicted wound, when we shut it down last year and Montreal got those 10 goals, that's when this started. It's energetic. And number one, there's just not enough pressure down there for the team and the coaches and the players to really feel hardcore, heavy pressure of, man, we better win or they're going to keep trashing us in the media, are going to keep booing us. People aren't going to come to the games. That part's a little bit true down there for South Florida. But there's nowhere near the amount of pressure on these guys that there should be, which is part of the reason why, Maurice probably said, yeah, I'll take the job. Sure, no problem. This will be easy. It's cupcakes. Hey, I mean, he can't even agree with the simplest thing. And Colby guy's asking him about, can you talk about the inconsistency? Are you kidding me, Maurice? So how do you fix it? We ain't going to fix it with draft picks. And the guys that we have down there, I mean, Heponiemi, you want him to turn into a nice piece because you really want to root for the kid. By the way, Owen Tippett has 8 goals. So you really want to root for Heponiemi, right? Dan Nasenko is a bust. Let's just call it at this point. He's a bust, okay? And then you've got a bunch of guys that can't make the team. They couldn't even make this team. I thought Hutsko looked good, not getting an opportunity. A couple of other guys. But we're not loaded, and we don't have first-round picks. And the only way we're replenishing those is by trading veterans. And so we have some tradable guys if you wanted to start a rebuild, but I don't think these owners are thinking rebuild. I think the owners, this is the dangerous thing here. I think the owners think what Viola thinks, I don't want to speak for Seafood, but I think what Viola thinks is tough year, cap hell, Maurice is the right guy. He's doing the best job he can. He's going to get the most out of this roster. We're going to spend a bunch of money that he thinks we might kind of going to have during this offseason. And then next year is the year that we should leapfrog where we were last year and be ready to compete for a cup. I think that's what Viola thinks. I think Maurice has him pretty well convinced that the reason why we're ass right now is complete personnel wise, and we're learning to grind. What's Zito going to do? Right? He's not going to start, you know, wanting to get. He's not going to advocate to get Maurice fired. That's not going to happen. So whatever this is going to be this year is what it's going to be. And then we're going to have to live with what can we do during the off season? How can we and which way do we fix it, right? Because holy hell in a handbasket. Are we going to miss the playoffs this year and then use the money that we have to fix things to have players that Maurice would want? God help us. You see what I'm saying? I mean, if that's what we're going to do, you may as well start blowing it up now, because whatever the Ekblad, Barkov, Huberdeau core was going to be, I think we're at the point now where that's done. And if you want to talk about Barkov, Lundell, okay, I'm not really sure what kind of number one defenseman we have right now. I mean, you know, I love Forsling, but he ain't Cale Makar, okay? And so there's going to be a bunch. There's a lot to fix. There's a lot to fix. And there's no easy answers. We have no ammunition, even if we knew what we wanted to do. And that's just the way the cookie's going to crumble right now. I think the rest of this season is going to be very similar to what we've seen, because I don't really buy what Maurice did on the bench last night. I don't buy it. I think that was for show. I think we were at home. He was pissed off at how bad they were playing, yes, but I don't think he meant it. I think it was for show. He knows the team ain't going to listen to him. He admitted it didn't work. And I think what you see is what you get. He's not even thinking we're playing inconsistent. And that's that. There'll be more videos like this. There'll be more like this. I want to start doing this every so often, every few days, so I can just get a straight stream of consciousness. It helps me to get to places that maybe I wouldn't have gotten before. Appreciate all the support. Make sure you hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you're new around here. And tomorrow night, Kyle and I will be back doing the stream. Stream starts 1/2 hour before the game. So what's that? 6:30 tomorrow. Stream starts. Game starts at 7. And I do feel we're going to get a win out of that one. Let's put it that way. I do feel strong about those 2 points, at least. Because if that doesn't happen, not good. I'll see you guys tomorrow.